I'm in love. It's the sexiest thing in the world. And then I get cheated on. That's called the first half. They don't force turnovers. Then something magical happens late in the game, and I'm back in love. And then throughout the week, I go back and forth. Should I really want to be with her? And then by Friday, I talk myself into how great this defense is and how they're going to knock off the defending NFC champions. That's my relationship with the Jet defense. It's a confusing one, Tiki. There are moments I hate them. There are moments I think they're overrated. But then on Friday at 2 o'clock, I'm in love again. And I think they could lead and be the catalyst for an upset against the Philadelphia Eagles.
What in the hell are you even talking about? Talking about the Jets and being in love with their defense. I guess that's the life of a fan. You get ups and downs. You get the misperceptions about a team, and even if they're true. The Jets defense is really good. They start very slow sometimes because teams script the first 15 or so plays of a game, and they kind of know what you're going to get from the Jets, right? And so as the game goes on, they get better, which is exactly what you want when you're playing some of the better teams in the NFL like they are this weekend against the Philadelphia Eagles. So you're right and you're wrong all at the same time.
Go ahead. Where am I wrong? Start with that.
You are wrong because you get flustered by a team's success, right? We say this all the time in sports. The other team is paid too, Evan, right? They also have coaches that are game planning and players that want to be successful. So you're not going to be dominant all the time. But the thing that matters most, I think, for the Jets defensively is that when it matters most for them, they've done great things. And that's all you can ask for. And it's won them some games.
They absolutely have. Here's why, though, they're so confusing. When they try to stop the run this season, they're the third worst team in the NFL. When they face a team in the red zone, they're a top 3 defense. They will keep you out of the end zone. When it's third down, they're one of the worst teams in the NFL at stopping you on third down. When it's the first half of a game, they will make your offense look good. When it's the second half of the game, their defense will shut you down. They are a very up and down unit. And here's what's so frustrating about that. It's not just the inconsistencies. It's the fact that if the Jets are going to make the playoffs, if the Jets are going to beat the Philadelphia Eagles, if the Jets are going to at least fulfill half of the expectations we had prior to the Aaron Rodgers injury, it's on them. It's on this defense. It's on this unit being a top 5, top 10 outfit. And so far this season, over the first 5 weeks, they've given you a lot of mixed results. Like, I'll give you the ultimate positive right now. When they have faced Josh Allen and Patrick Mahomes, 2 elite-level quarterbacks, they have forced those guys to throw 5 interceptions. They have been really good against Josh Allen and Patrick Mahomes. They held the Bills to 16 points. They held the Chiefs to 23 points. But then they will allow Russell Wilson on 3rd and long in the first half last week against Denver to convert on many a first down. They'll allow the Dallas Cowboys to just run the ball down their throats in the first half like they did week 2. They have stepped up their performance against elite-level quarterbacks, which was the criticism they faced last year from guys like Morash and others. Oh, let's see what happens when they face a big-time quarterback. Well, this year, they've stepped up against them. But then you have those mixed results, the slow starts, the inability to get off the field on 3rd down, weeks of not forcing turnovers like the game against Dallas, like the game against New England. And it's why, as a fan, there are moments I curse this defense out, and then there are moments in which I talk them up as the reason why they can make the playoffs. And that's why, as a fan and as a lover, they confuse the crap out of me, Tiki.
They do, but look, we're only 5 weeks into the NFL season. You have no idea what this defense is going to look like when it's all said and done. When the season's over, whether that's the playoffs or not, whatever it may be, you don't know what this team is going to evolve into. And every team, I don't care if the pieces are exactly the same or if they're 8 of the starters are new, 8 of the 11 are new. It takes time every single year because teams have adjusted and teams have started to scout and they understand what they're trying to do. Look, has it been perfect? Of course not. It hasn't been perfect for the New York Jets, but it's been good enough defensively because of all the things you were talking about. They forced some of these the best players in football to be mistake riddled. And it's given them chances in games. In fact, they've won a couple of games because of it. Hell, they won in Denver because of the defense, because of Quincy Williams, and because of the pressure that they were able to put on, because they shut down their run game in the second half. And so I think the problem is you think it's got to be perfect all the time. Maybe because DJ Reed said that this was the 85 Bears. Forget what he said. It doesn't even matter. What matters is that when it comes down to a moment, when a game is on the line, you have to trust what this team is going to do defensively.
I'm going to give you the reason why me and others hold them to this incredibly high standard. And it's not only because of what DJ Reed said. Because the truth is, I got to get that out of my head. We all do. Mm-hmm. They're not the 85 Bears. They may have a big-time defense. That still needs to be proven. But they're never going to be the 85 Bears. The reason why I hold them to an incredibly high standard is because if this team is going to win 9 games, which is a nice little simple goal to have as a Jet fan, make the postseason. It's something they have not done in over a decade. If they're going to accomplish that goal, it's going to be on the backs of that unit. That's how they're doing it. That's how they're winning games. They're going to win games because this turns out to be the big-time defense it's shown flashes of. So I think a part of why we almost demand perfection is not only a respect for the talent on this roster, because they do have a lot of talent on defense, and they're also run by a defensive-minded head coach who really got the job because he waved the pom-pom so well when the Niner defense was making plays.
No, they were good, man. Stop.
They were good, sure.
Yeah, they drafted well, but yes, it was also because of Robert Saleh.
It's because
Don't knock 'em.
If they're going to beat Philadelphia on Sunday, if they're going to win enough games to make the postseason, it's going to be because that unit's that good. And I think the other reason, Tiki, I demand perfection is because, and this is where we morph into the offense a little bit, because the offense's ineptitude early in games has forced them to. Do you realize the New York Jets have scored 5 points in the first quarter this year? 2 of them came from the defense. So they've scored 3 points this year in the first quarter of games.
Yeah, I did know that.
That's a problem, dude.
Of course it's a problem.
And that's why when the defense gets off to slow starts, and you're right when you say, but Evan, wouldn't you prefer that in the second half when plays are needed to be made, they make them? Sure, if you're giving me the choice, I'd rather have that team that locks it down in the second half. But when you have an offense that put up 0 in the first quarter against Buffalo, 0 in the first quarter against Dallas, 0 in the first quarter against New England, 0 in the first quarter against Kansas City, and 3 offensive points against Denver, you put yourself in a spot where if your defense isn't great, you're losing. And that's what the spot the Jets have been in every single week this year. They're losing every single game early.
Well, it's not because they're losing early. It's just the team's not offensively robust enough yet. And look, when's that going to happen? I have no idea. Maybe it never will happen. But it's also the challenge that they're facing because of the circumstances they were put in. Aaron Rodgers goes down. Their offense has to change, and it takes some time for Zach to get comfortable and confident in the offense. It just is what it is. I think the schizophrenic nature with which you think about this Jets defense it's almost unfair to them, right? Because it's almost like you're making a team game one-sided, and you can't do that. They're going to do their parts. Sometimes they're going to make mistakes. Even the best defenses get gashed at points or give up big plays at big moments. So you know that that's going to happen, especially with their offense still a work in progress. And I don't want to steal Aaron Rodgers' line, but you got to just calm down as it pertains to how you look at this defense. They are playing good football. Offensively, they're going to come closer to par, and hopefully that combination makes them a winning team.
But here's the thing about this defense. Last year, they were a top 5 unit. Their biggest issue was they could not force a turnover in the second half of this season. This is mostly a similar roster. Like the roster defensively is very, very similar. So I look, and when I evaluate, because the confusing part I admit, is they have forced me to be schizophrenic as a fan. They have forced me at moments to curse them out and say I'll never call them a big-time defense again, which is something I did tweet a couple of weeks ago. I think it was the first half against Kansas City. But then by the second half of games, I'm intoxicated again.
But do they have to be? Do they have to be an elite defense? Do they have to be?
Yes.
Or they just need to find ways to win games?
No, they need to be an elite defense.
But why? Because to me, it's about winning. It's like however you have to find a way to win, That's what you do.
Well, yeah,
and
but
if it's somebody stepping up in moments, and that you can count on that guy, whether it's Quincy Williams or whether it's Sauce Gardner or whoever, like you get somebody who's able to understand the urgency of a moment and make a play, even if the defense is mediocre or middle of the road, which they're never going to be. But just say that they are. If you have guys stepping up and finding a way to win a football game, isn't that what's most important?
Of course, winning's most important, but the only way they're going to win games is if this is a big-time defense. And the reason I expect that is I look at the talent on this roster. I look at the talent at corner with Sauce, who wasn't feeling well today. Hopefully he feels better, because if he don't play Sunday, we're all going to feel sick. DJ Reed on his back, way back from a concussion. And then so many guys that can get to the quarterback. So much talent on this defensive line. So much talent. They're literally healthy scratching guys who would start for other teams in this league. This roster is good enough to be elite level. So, yeah, my expectations are high, not only because I think it can be that good, and they've shown you flashes of being that good, but ultimately, if they're going to make the playoffs, and that's why we're here as fans. All right, it may not be Super Bowl anymore with Aaron Rodgers out, but the expectation most of us have as Jet fans is they better make the playoffs. I want to see this team play a postseason game for the first time since the AFC Championship game against Pittsburgh. For them to do that, this defense needs to be more consistent, because there is a schizophrenic nature to it. Even in the stats, there's schizophrenic nature. They can't get off the field on third down. They're great in the red zone. They can't stop a quarterback rush from the football. They're one of the worst teams in the league at it. They can't stop the run. They're great against the pass. They force turnovers sometimes. It seems to have in bunches. They are very, very up and down. They get off to terrible starts. Then they lock it down in the second halves. They're great against elite-level quarterbacks like Allen and Mahomes. They are, even statistically, such a schizophrenic defense.
Yeah. Well, let me parallel something for you, Evan. So last year, the Giants got off to a really good start, right?
Yeah.
Did you hear Giant fans saying, we're making the playoffs, we're going to the Super Bowl, we're doing X, Y, Z? The answer is no.
Well, it depends who you were talking to.
Well, I wasn't. You know, the smart commentator on this was not saying those things. Why? Because you knew they were a work in progress, right? You knew that at any point they could face a team that would smash them, and so you kind of expected, let's just see this thing grow. Let's just see it grow. Let's just see it grow. And they won a lot of one-score games. They went through that little slide, but when they had to find a way to win games at the end, particularly against Washington, they were able to do so. Then they get into the postseason, and we know what happens. And so I think that the difference with the Jet fan right now is that the Jet fan is thinking to the playoffs. It's week 6, dude. You're thinking at the playoffs. And you knew as soon as you lost Aaron Rodgers that this was no longer a guaranteed playoff team. It is a work in progress team. And so you take the small victories when you can, as opposed to, well, 12 weeks from now, we're going to be in the postseason, right? You can't, when you start thinking that way, you're getting ahead of yourself. Now, the player is not doing that. Right? Robert Saleh's not doing that. Nate Hackett's not doing that. Jeff Olberg's not doing that. Nobody's doing that except for the fan. And so the fan needs to come closer to what's actually happening in the building. Last year for Giants fans, I think that's what they were doing. They understood that the weekend successes were fantastic. You know, you win this game, maybe you have a setback here, but it matched, right? The expectation matched what was happening in the building. I think for the Jets this season, the expectation of the fan is far outstripping what's happening in the building.
No, because wait, hold on. Here's why that's not fair. I have reset, and I think most of us have. We have reset our expectations for this team. Coming into the year with Aaron Rodgers at quarterback, building off of last year, there were super high expectations. Some thought Super Bowl, some thought AFC Championship game. I certainly thought playoffs, win a playoff game, you better have a home playoff game. We all had high bars to varying degrees. I don't have that bar today. Most of us don't have that bar today. We reset. So here's what we reset to, Tiki. Here's our reset button. We reset to the end of last year. We reset to a team that had a really good chance to make the playoffs last year, and then their quarterback play over the last 7 weeks of the season and their defense's inability to force a turnover took a 5-2 start, a 7-4 start, and flushed it. Yep. And they finished 7-10. So my expectations are continuing from last year. A 7-win team that lost their last 6 games, but had a top 5 defense that needs better quarterback play to go along with a defense that needs to play on that level, just throw in more turnovers, and boom, you've got a team that can win 9-10 games and make the playoffs. This is not year 1 of a rebuild. This is year 3 of a rebuild. So I think my expectations of, hey, I need this defense to be like a close to an elite level group, that's just a continuation from 1 year ago. I think I've successfully hit the re-button on the Aaron Rodgers expectations.
Yeah.
I'm not there anymore. I'm not thinking Super Bowl. I'm thinking playoffs. Yeah.
Okay, but why are you thinking playoffs?
Because they should have made it last year, Tiki. That's why.
Of course, but this is not last year. I'm talking about this year. The way that this team started. I mean, easily could have been 1-4. Certainly, obviously, they won against Denver, so they're 2-3. It feels better. Right? It just feels like, wow, we actually won a game on the road against not a tough opponent, because we saw last night that Denver is a farce, and that Sean Payton's knocking of Nathaniel Hackett was kind of just putting more egg on his face every single game that they lose. And the more we see that Russ is a fraud as a star that he thinks he is still. But still, my point is they won that game. Right? You go on the road, you win a game, and that's important. And right now, I think the Jets they need to focus on where they are. And the Jet fan also needs to focus on where they are, not where they think they're supposed to go. That's the only thing I'm saying.
Well, where are we? Where are we with this defense? They have forced 5 turnovers in the last 2 weeks. They have played incredibly well against elite-level quarterbacks. I told you, you know what they did against Mahomes, what they did against Allen. Now they're taking on Jalen Hurts, who was an MVP-caliber player a year ago, is not off to that same great start. No. A dynamic Philadelphia offense. Where are we? Like, should I have the expectations that this defense can play like a big-time unit, slow down the Eagles, and the Jets can shock everybody? Because no one's giving the Jets a chance to win this game.
Well, unless Zach is more consistent and they put more drives together and they do the only thing you can do to beat the Eagles, which is either score, which we know they're not going to do, or keep them off the field. It's got to be on the defense. Yes, you're right. They have to turn over Jalen Hurts, right? They have to swarm to the ball and make tackles like they did 3 weeks ago or so against the Dallas Cowboys. They have to do all of the little things right. Now, am I going to pick them? Probably not. But do I give them a chance? Sure. Because their defense plays well. And I think I have more faith in Zach than I think most people do. And so this is not a great weekend matchup-wise for the New York Jets. But that doesn't mean they can't beat the New York Jets as long as they're not looking ahead like you are.
I'm not looking ahead.
To the postseason. You're talking about the postseason.
No, I'm telling you what the expectations are. That's all. I'm not thinking about the playoffs. I'm not booking plane tickets anywhere. I know that they got a lot of work to do to get there. And one of the things they can do that will certainly advance a lot of opinions is shock the world and beat this Eagle team for the first time ever. Because this is a franchise that's never beaten the Philadelphia Eagles. Now, I will admit, as much as the Patriots streak against the Jets was relevant, and I wanted every single player to know about that streak, the Jets never beating the Eagles means absolutely nothing. Okay? Yeah. I mean, the first one to admit that.
It doesn't even roll off the tongue right. It's like, the Jets have never beat the Eagles. It's
a whatever losing streak. It just doesn't mean anything. But go out and beat the Eagles at MetLife Stadium, especially, let's all face it, we can all come together on this. The city of Philadelphia has been so obnoxious over the last few weeks and last few years.
It's only going to get worse.
It's only going to get worse. They had a big party last night at the bank, and I warned my fellow Jet fan, I warn you about something. They're coming north this weekend. I mean, you know that the Philadelphia Eagle fan and the Philadelphia sports fan, with a couple of off days before they prepare for that big-time NLCS against my baseball team, my favorite team, the Arizona Diamondbacks, you know those Eagle fans are about to invade MetLife Stadium.
Oh, there's no doubt about it. The Eagle sports fan, or the Philadelphia sports fan, is still riding high off the Eagles being in the Super Bowl, even though they lost. They are eager because the Phillies were in the World Series, even though they lost, and they just believe I'm saving every single dime of my disposable income, and I'm spending it on Philadelphia sports excursions because we're the best. That's what they think right now. We're almost title town. That's what they are right now.
There is one positive to the Eagle fan. Not a positive, but one saving grace of the Eagle fan invading MetLife Stadium on Sunday. Unlike when they play the Giants, it's obvious because of the green. Because we sort of share a color, visually, it's going to be very difficult to notice how many Eagle fans are there. The problem is, if this Jet defense gets off to another slow start, if Zach Wilson and this offense get off to another slow start, and it's basically Kansas City all over again, and they're down 17-0, and they're chasing points, here's unfortunately what we're going to hear at a MetLife Stadium. The dopiest chant in all of sports.
Don't finish it.
Don't even. Oh, stop.
Don't finish it. This is WFAN, not WIP.
Yes. Eagles.
Maybe the Jet fans and Eagle fans could have a spelling bee since they both like to spell their team names out.
Ours is better, obviously.
I mean,
ours
it's shorter. It's simpler.
It's shorter. It's quicker. It's to the point. We got Fireman Ed.
Hey, 5-year-olds, you can do this one.
Yes. I don't know why, and I think I'm talking myself into this almost every Friday. I feel more confident about this football team when they play better teams. I had more confidence going into the Kansas City game than I did the New England game. And I have more confidence going into this Philly game than I did the Denver game. And a part of that is this weird trust I still have that this defense can be elite. And they're going to need them to be elite on Sunday. We'll get your calls, 877-337-6666. More on what they need to do offensively in this game. We'll obviously talk plenty of Giants, including the news that Daniel Jones is officially out for Sunday night. And Tiki made a point about Sean Payton. Sean Payton coached as if he was trying to lose last night. And there's actually audio evidence of Sean Payton admitting what his plan is, and that's to tank. We'll take a listen.